Exactly. Henry, what's your topic? What do you want to talk about today?
So I have 2 topics because there's only 2 of us.
Exactly.
So-
We're each bringing in 2. What's your first topic?
So I wanted to talk about what is a sport and what isn't.
So why you sent that to me last night, and I was like, okay, I feel like I know where you're going, but like, why do you want to talk about it?
I want to talk about this because it's just something I've been wondering of like, what, like, okay, so let's take popular sports right now.
Right.
Baseball, football, basketball, definitely sports.
Yes. There's physical activities going on there. There's thinking involved. Strategy is involved. Sort of the culmination of what is a sport, right? So what's something that you wouldn't consider a sport that like other people do? Like the Olympics have they have fucking categories for everything that are considered sports, right? But what do you not like consider a sport?
Golf.
Really? Okay.
I don't think of golf as a sport. I think of it as a leisure activity.
I totally understand that, and that's interesting though, because like, and then this is something like, so it is sort of like more of like a hobby, right? And it's like, yeah, you can hit the ball as like fucking as hard as you can, but it's also like there is thinking behind it, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe I should hit it this angle or whatnot. But there's not a lot of like physical things going on, so I do understand that. And it's not like, but what would you call them, right? Because I think the problem is that like people like to call like golf and like chess, like they have fucking chess tournaments on like ESPN 6 or whatever, right? So it's technically like a sport.
Next to competitive knitting.
Exactly. So it's like, what would you call those to like not like put down those things, right? Because I feel like a leisure activity, right? Like it's like, oh, that's just a thing you do for leisure. So
Trust
like,
me, chess is not a leisure activity.
well, like specifically golf, right? Your golf example, like what would you call it to like not offend people?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that's the interesting like like sort of hump we get over. So if it's like not a sport, like
Lee
what else?
Carvalho's putting challenge.
Yeah, like I don't really consider chess a sport. Like I think it's really dumb that people like it's a sport. It's on ESPN 45 or whatever. So it's like
I'd say if you consider chess a sport, that's like saying like Call of Duty's a sport because
there are esports now, and I honestly don't
that was the
consider those
question, like,
sports. You know,
like when I think sports, I think of something that like requires like peak like physical.
exactly, where like you actually have to like physically train to do something. You don't have to like, oh, I gotta crunch my fingers so I can move those so I can move the queen and the rooks like really nicely, you know. I would yeah, like sports are definitely something where you have to physically train for them, like
Football.
I think like
Basketball.
competitive swimming.
Oh yeah,
track and field, like all of those things are sports.
ballet.
Ballet, yeah. It's like weird to think of ballet as a sport though, mainly because of like it's usually not competitive. So it's like
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean it's competitive behind the scenes, but
that is true. I mean, most things are competitive behind the scenes. I would knock away like, okay, golf isn't a sport, but you can be a professional golfer, right? Like, and that's the thing. Like, I've never really been behind the whole like esports thing. Like, what is the electronic sports? Is that what it's supposed to stand for?
I want to say so.
Yeah, like but like, I don't feel right calling them esports, right? It's like, yes, you have to like train and like,
It's like a mental training.
but that's what chess is as well. There's a mental training behind that, right?
It's like saying that like math is a sport. Because,
Exactly.
Like to get good at a video game is all about like with fighting games.
Yeah.
Like it's all about like figuring out exactly like
The strategy and like
it's
if this
equations.
yeah, exactly. If like this person uses this tactic, what is it going to be like your counter tactic?
if
right?
I counter at this exact frame during his animation, I can counter to deliver double damage.
Yes,
And
exactly.
immediately go into a combo that will allow me to use my special move. It's like that.
Exactly. And so like, the most physical activity you're doing is this, and thinking with your brain a lot. But I wouldn't call it like esports. I would call it like professional gaming. And I don't think that's like a knock against that, right?
I'd say it's like tournament play would be
yeah.
proper name for it.
Okay.
Another thing that's like
Shout out to Michael Martin, a friend of ours, or a friend of mine at least, who covers esports for Yahoo. Go you. Yeah.
people work at Yahoo.
Right? Hey,
He's still use that search engine.
he's having a lot of fun times over there. He knows Andrea Renee, that popular the woman who's always in GameStops, who's talking about the video games and whatnot. I forget what she actually.
Play the new hit game. I'm working at GameStop for 2 months. Those things are like buried into my head. Oh, I'm just a guy.
Oh god, yeah, those like fucking Fallout 4 commercials. Now I can understand why you hate that game.
But so like another one I was thinking of is NASCAR.
Oh.
Because actually, something funny I pointed out to my mom yesterday was NASCAR is the only sport where the best people are people who be terrible at that thing in real life. Because like NASCAR driving or like Forza 1,
Forza, I think, is just a video game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to racing, so like Formula 1.
We don't live in Indiana, so.
Or France.
Exactly.
But like everything that's you have to do to be good at like racing is something that'll make you a terrible driver.
In like real life.
I always have to be ahead of people. I have to be going fast.
Like you would immediately get in a car crash or pulled over by the cops, right?
Yeah. Like, I think real competitive racing should be which suburban mom trying to pick up their kids from school goes the longest without honking their horn.
That would be a really cool like game show of like
who can do the best parallel parking.
That'd be fucking dope.
I'd watch the hell out of that.
And then it turns into like one of those old school game shows where like if you win, you get to go into like a grocery store and grab all the things that you want for free.
Because that's exactly what the suburban mom's driving to.
Yes, exactly.
I would love this show.
That would be a dope ass game show. We should start that. Hell yeah. Yeah, like I don't want to like disparage like these other like activities, right? Like golf, there is like not an exact science, but there is like a strategy to golf, right? There's a way.
Resistance. What kind of putt do I use? Distance, like
what
kind of
what
terrain?
like what club is gonna have? Like,
I played
the best...
PGA Tour.
Yeah, exactly. What club is gonna have like the best angle to like get me out of like this pit or like whatever? And like there is thinking to all of these things. There's thinking to chess. There's thinking to video games. So I don't want to disparage these things, but I don't think they qualify as sports, you know? And it's not like the sport is like superior to those things, right? They're not. But it's like it's just you're labeling it something that it's not, right? It's like I'm trying to think of a good example. It's like it's how like frozen yogurt isn't technically an ice cream, but it's still really good, you know?
Or like gelato.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're not the same thing. Don't label them as the same thing, but they're still good in their own right. They're still respectable in their own right. So
like cereal and oatmeal.
Exactly.
I don't eat either.
So like that's the sort of thing like I'm thinking about is like I don't want to disparage these things, but I think, you know, they need to be labeled as something else.
Yeah. Another one I had a question about was we were talking about peak mental peak physical like form.
Yeah.
Like for sports like basketball, baseball, football, boxing.
Yes.
Greco-Roman wrestling.
Sure.
That's the one where it's like actually like you have the mat and it's like who can actually pin the person and you get
the wrestling that our good friend Shavila was in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Now the question is, even though it's scripted, does professional wrestling count as a sport? Because you have to be in top physical shape and there's a certain level of like you have to know what you're doing while you're doing it.
I wouldn't consider it a sport. And I think the thing that disqualifies it as a sport is because it's scripted. You know, like a sport, there is a certain competitiveness to it. And while like the wrestlers are like sort of bringing on, like they're sort of putting on their faces of like, yes, this is competitive, but behind the scenes it is all scripted, right? And so I think that is the one thing that disqualifies it as a sport, because it's entertaining like sports, but it's in the deep layers of what like professional like WWE and whatnot. In the deep layers, it's more entertaining like a soap opera. So I wouldn't qualify that as a sport. And like
Still very dangerous acting.
it is a very dangerous. It's like it's basically just like stuntman shit, you know, and that's really cool. I think you need to be in peak physical form because that's sort of that scene, right? Like that's sort of like what people expect when they like want to see wrestlers and whatnot. So it's not like you have to be in peak physical, like you don't have to be all fucking juiced up and shit to be good at like scripted pro wrestling, right? So I think that is the one factor that does disqualify it as like a sport. So
On another tangent that I wanted to go on, because I think about this a lot. How funny is it that that wrestling was the sport that became scripted? Like, there's all these sports, and like wrestling's the only one that's been turned into like a show.
that is weird to like think about, because it's like, who thought of that, right? Like, who was the person who was just like soap opera?
I actually have an answer.
Oh, okay.
It started in the early 20th century with carnies.
Oh, that actually does make sense.
Because they were like, hey, we have these big men, they can wrestle, let's put on a show.
So it would be like a sort of scripted like act, basically.
Like, you're big, handsome, and you look white, you're going to be the good guy in this. You're hairy and look mildly foreign, we're going to have you as the villain.
As, you know, 20th century racism was like.
Yeah. But, like, imagine if that happened with, like, other sports. Like, you have professional fly fishing. And, like, everyone is, like, this character.
Oh, my God. That'd be fucking hilarious.
Or, like, bat football.
I mean, football, they sort of already are divas in their own way, right?
Yeah. And it is scripted.
Damn. Yeah, that is interesting, like, to think about, like, how nothing else was turned into, like, a scripted, like, form of entertainment.
I think the difference is because wrestling is, like, a lot more, like, 1v1, so you have, like, character versus character.
And, like, with, like, team-based things, it becomes a little more complicated, right? There's, like, on average, there's probably about 40 or median 40 people on a baseball team, and then how many baseball teams are there, like, in total? Like,
more than 20.
I'd say about 30 to 35 baseball teams in total.
The MLB.
Yeah, and that's just in the MLB. So let me like fucking do that real quick, that math real quick. So like on average, like 40 times 35, you have 1,400 like characters in this entire like thing that could possibly be scripted. It becomes too much.
Yeah, make most of them jobbers. Do you know what a jobber is?
No.
A jobber is someone whose main purpose in wrestling is to lose. So they're like people.
So the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah.
No, they're doing really well this year.
The Cubs.
Their Cubs are doing fantastic this year.
They're not going to win.
I mean, it's pretty solid through September, and you know the Cubs stands for completely useless by September, and they're still holding strong. They're still like fucking 15 games ahead in their division.
If the Cubs win the World Series, I'm eating my sock. I will eat a sock on this show.
So, sorry, I'm gonna go off on an unrelated tangent real quick. Did you have any like other like things you want to talk about, like what makes a sport, or like what should not be considered a sport?
Well, I mean, card games falls under the same like tournament style.
Yeah, but it's like it is like a
Hey, listen, I got really buffed
mental
from turning over that Yu-Gi-Oh card from defense mode to attack mode.
let me look at this real quick. I do want a Tribe and Cubs World Series. That would be so fucking cool. That would be so dope. Yeah, Cubs are fucking 16 games ahead of the Cardinals right now, and the Tribe 6 games ahead.
You want the rest of this?
Yes, I do. So that's all I wanted to say. I want a Tribe Cubs World Series because that shit would be dope. I would definitely go home for that. So anyway, sports. We like sports. We don't care who knows.
Yay, sports. It's in the game.